Cricket has had its own set of mavericks, men and women who've gone ahead and done things that nobody before them had done. But when it came to Test cricket, for more than a century, while there were players, the grammar didn't change much, especially when it came to the art of opening the batting. For India, the grammar book was written by one of the greatest ever, Sunil Gavaskar, who demonstrated for close to 2 decades how effective it was to get your eye in that first session of a test match. And then came Virender Sehwag, a man who didn't care much about words like grammar or fear or reputation. And so today on India's Top 25, we talk about a few of those days when the freshness that Sehwag brought to Test cricket met with method and gave us some unbelievable knocks. As an 18-year-old, Virender Sehwag made his India debut against Pakistan and lasted only 2 deliveries, batting at number 7. 5 years later, in 2004, when he went to Pakistan, he was a changed cricketer in every possible way. Encouraged by his captain Sourav Ganguly to open the batting a couple of years earlier, Sehwag had already started to score runs all around the world and had even lit up the MCG on day 1 of that Boxing Day test with a memorable 195. But that was in the past. What lay ahead of him was a bowling attack led by Shoaib Akhtar. Many wondered what he could do against the fast bowlers of Pakistan in their own backyard. Damage. A lot of damage. Pakistan realized soon. On the placid Multan track, India had raced to a century even before lunch on day 1. And I mentioned the word placid because a bit of it had to do with Pakistan's own insecurity too, as the grass was shaved off the Multan track. On the orders of a senior Pakistan batter, it later emerged. But truth be told, the world had seen enough of Viru by then to know that the nature of the pitch did little to deter him from destroying bowling attacks. An exercise he continued even after lunch in Multan. Just as he had famously slashed Waqar Younis for 6 over point a year earlier in the World Cup, he now did that against the pace of Shoaib Akhtar to bring up his century. He was onto something special, everyone could sense that. But in the case of Sehwag, everyone was also aware that one high-risk shot gone wrong and it could all be over very quickly, just like it had happened at the MCG a few months earlier. Remember? Batting 195, Sehwag got a full toss from Katic that he tried to hit a 6 off, only to find a fielder in the deep. Now, many youngsters might have sobered up after a dismissal like that, but not Sehwag. He did reach his 200 with a single, by the way. Credit to him for that, maybe. It could be the influence of Sachin Tendulkar at the other end, who knows? But when on 295, he hoisted one from Saqlain Mushtaq over the mid-wicket boundary for 6. Saqlain had come into the series claiming he had a new ball up his sleeve called, Teesra. However, so severe was Sehwag on him that day that forget the Teesra, even Saqlain himself was never seen playing for Pakistan again. Sehwag, on the other hand, became the Sultan of Multan that day. Now, audacious was a word that Dean Jones used on commentary that day when Sehwag brought up India's first triple 100. And audacious is exactly the word I can think of when looking back at the fact that 4 years later, there was an encore. Against a bowling attack that had some of the finest names, maybe not in conditions they'd have enjoyed bowling in, Sehwag showed that 2004 wasn't a fluke. Mind you, he was on the field for 153 overs in the furnace that Chennai is around that time of the year. South Africa's batters had carted Indian bowlers around for more than 500 and were waiting with the likes of Steyn, Morkel and Tini and Kallis to pounce on the Indian batters. What did Sehwag do? He pounced on them instead. Actually, in many ways, this was Sehwag 2.0, as a struggle with form and fitness in the last 18 months meant that he'd only played a single test in 2007. So would a Sehwag 2.0 change his methods? On 99, when Kallis pitched it full, he was hit back over his head for a straight 6. The madness of Multan was still very much intact even in this version of Sehwag. More evidence followed because on the same day, he scored another 200 in just 164 balls. That was triple century number 2 from a man who many thought, with his attacking gameplay, presented way too many chances to last long on a cricket pitch. But as I said before, Sehwag had as scant respect for what people thought about his style as he had, in his own admission, for off-spinners. And I mention off-spinners because just a year and a half after the Chennai 319, Sehwag almost got a third triple by putting 2 of the better finger spinners to sword. Now you might argue that Muthiah Muralidharan wasn't a pure finger spinner, but he was an off-spinner, and him and Ranganath Herath together could be a handful even on the flattest of tracks. But this one time at the Brabant, they were not, because they were up against a rampaging Sehwag. He had already gotten 100 in his previous test, but it paled in comparison to what he did at the Brabant. Yes, the pitch was flat, and yes, the boundaries were not the longest, but even then, 293 of just 254 balls is nothing less than a freak test innings. Unfortunately for Sehwag, this time when in the 290s he didn't try to hit out of the park, lobbed a simple catch to Murali to walk back for 293. There are n number of Sehwag specials that one can go talking about, especially his knocks in Adelaide and that very special one in Galle in 2008 that showed a very different side to the batter. But these 3 knocks in about 6 years showed best how Sehwag completely changed the understanding of an opener's role in Test cricket. Yes, we've had attacking openers in the past too, but an opener who would single-handedly demoralize the opposition even in the first session of the day. Now that was a Sehwag special. A strike rate of 82 in Test was unheard of when Sehwag burst onto the scene. People were gobsmacked by batters who struck at 60-65. But then Sehwag changed the grammar of Test cricket with his incredible career. At the heart of his success was a desire to dominate bowling. He often said that the bowler must fear the batter too, for that is when he will bowl a bad ball. The bats that he possessed meant he could find gaps over fielders. He was refreshing, and he was a rare talent because he thought differently. A lot of people talk about fearless cricket today, especially in the times of Bazball and all that. But here was a man who played it for over a decade and succeeded at it. An average of close to 50 with 6 double hundreds, out of which 2 were converted into triples, are extraordinary numbers for a player with that style of cricket. What a player. Quick question at the end, as we always do. Virender Sehwag shares the record for the most number of triple hundreds in Test cricket with 3 people. One of them is Sir Donald Bradman. Who are the other 2? So thanks for watching, and do subscribe to this channel.